I'm Eleanor Sinclair, 36, single mom of two and the youngest disappointment in a family that equates love with legacy and manners with money. Born into the Sinclair dynasty. Yes, that Sinclair name stamped on law firms and endowments from here to New York. I was supposed to be someone. But compared to my older brother Gideon, the golden boy with the perfect wife, polished kids, and a court-ready smile, I've always been the error in the family equation. They call him an image of the brand. Me, emotionally reactive, off message, and once at a particularly brutal Christmas dinner, a liability. I used to think it was just words, harsh but harmless. Then came last Thanksgiving, when my parents looked me in the eye and told me only his children were invited because mine didn't fit the fancy vibe. And that was the moment I realized this wasn't just favoritism. This was war. The call came on a Thursday afternoon. Light filtered through the blinds in angled gold. Charlotte and Owen were laughing in the living room. Muffled giggles, the crackle of Legos underfoot. "Hey, Mom," I answered, cradling the phone to my shoulder as I chopped garlic. The kind of normal moment you forget to be grateful for, until it burns. "Ellie, sweetheart," Margaret's voice was light. Too late. That silk glove tone she saved for public events and apologies she didn't mean. "We've been finalizing the guest list for Thanksgiving, and I wanted to touch base." I dropped the knife. Finalizing. A pause. Then, just a little shift this year. Smaller group. Intimate. More curated. Curated. Like my children were noise in an art gallery. I stiffened. "So no kids?" "Oh no, darling, of course some kids. Gideon's bringing Avery and Lucas. You know how well-mannered they are. But with yours," another pause sharpened now, "it's just not the right vibe. Not this time. They're not decor, Mom." My voice cracked. "They're your grandchildren. You're being sensitive again." No apology, just that same condescension, as if my entire life was a performance that didn't meet the dress code. I didn't respond. I ended the call. The line went dead like a snapped tendon. Later that night, I couldn't sleep. The house was dark except for the dim light of my phone on the nightstand. I scrolled through old photos, Charlotte in her ballet dress, Owen with syrup on his cheeks. Proof they existed, that they mattered. Then it pinged. A message. No name. No number. "They didn't just exclude you. They've been rewriting the will. Look at the trust fund." My breath caught. I sat up, phone slipping in my hand. The room felt colder. "Check your name. If it's still there." I knew the Sinclair Family Trust. It had been built across generations, a fortress of tax-advantage capital and legacy allocations. But it wasn't just money, it was control and access. I called Gideon. Straight to voicemail. I called again. Then again. On the fourth ring, he picked up, irritated. "Ellie, it's late. I need to ask you something. Is my name still on the family trust?" Silence. I could hear the sound of ice hitting glass. "Apu," a slow drink. "That's a question for Mom," he said finally, which meant no. I hung up. The next morning, I dressed in black, pulled my hair back into something that made me look colder than I felt, and drove downtown. The Sinclair Family Trust was managed by Whitlock and Dean, our legacy firm. They knew my name, knew my face. Reception barely blinked when I asked to see my own file. "Just a moment, Miss Sinclair." Tap, tap, click. Her eyes widened slightly. "Is there a problem?" "No," she said quickly, "but I'll have to get Mr. Pritchard. It's a senior trustee matter." Pritchard. Our family's estate lawyer since I was a kid. He once gave me a peppermint during my grandfather's wake. He came out 10 minutes later, face like dried paper. "Eleanor," he said, "what a surprise. Is my name still on the trust?" He didn't answer, just gestured toward a side room. The file was thin. Too thin. Pages missing. Redacted lines. A new addendum at the bottom. I scanned the signature. Gideon Sinclair, primary trustee. Margaret Sinclair, executive oversight. Charlotte and Owen Winters, removed. Status, non-aligned dependents. What the hell is this? My voice echoed in the sterile room. Pritchard looked down. You'll have to speak with your mother. Don't patronize me. It's not personal, Eleanor. It's strategic. I grabbed the file and walked out. That night, Charlotte showed me a text on her school iPad. Blocked number. Mom's not telling you the whole story. Look under the floorboards. Your future was buried there. I didn't sleep. I paced. I checked every drawer, every cabinet. I didn't know what I was looking for until I found the old key to the Sinclair safe deposit box, buried under my father's war medals in a tin labeled Old Receipts. I stared at it for a long time. Truth isn't lost, my father once said. It's locked up where no one dares look. He was wrong, because in the morning I was going to look. What trust fund? Friday, 7:03 a.m., sharp light cracked through the blinds like a scalpel. I'd been up since 4. I parked across from Whitlock and Dean, our legacy firm since 1952, and stared at its glass facade. Every reflection felt like a warning. Inside, I said my name. They didn't ask for ID. The Sinclair surname still opened doors. For now, the woman at reception typed. Her nails clicked too fast. Your file's been updated recently, she said, eyes flicking upward. I'll have Mr. Pritchard bring it down. Updated. Not reviewed. Not requested. Updated. Pritchard appeared minutes later. Same tired hunch from when I was 8 and he'd read aloud my grandfather's will. Same pitying smile. Only this time no candy in hand. He led me into a side room. No windows, just a single camera blinking red in the corner. The file was thinner than it should have been. I scanned. Red lines. New signatories. Reallocations. My name was gone. Charlotte and Owen listed, then crossed out. Non-aligned dependents, I read aloud. My throat dried. What does that even mean? Pritchard adjusted his tie. They're not eligible under the updated alignment clause. The what clause? It's standard in wealth preservation trusts, based on projected suitability to the family's brand. Brand? I nearly laughed. They're children. He blinked. Who signed this? He hesitated. Your mother. And Gideon. My hands clenched the file so hard it creased. I stood. Copy this. He didn't move. You can deny it, but I'll get it one way or another. I left. The air outside felt like ice in my lungs. Back home, Charlotte was on the iPad, legs curled under her. She looked up. Someone texted me. My heart skipped. What kind of text? She showed me. A blocked number. A single sentence. She's done this before. Look under the floorboards. There were no attachments. No emojis. Just words that sounded too grown for any kid's prank. Did you reply? She shook her head. It disappeared after 5 seconds. Ephemeral. Like someone didn't want to trace. I made her promise not to tell Owen. Later that night, after the kids were asleep, I crept into the garage. The air was stale with sawdust and wet cardboard. I pried up the warped floorboard beneath the workbench. There it was, a rusted tin box. Inside, an old Sinclair banking envelope dated 2006. The key was still inside. Safe deposit box 144. Location, Piedmont branch. The vault. Saturday morning. Fog rolled off the hills like breath from something sleeping too long. I entered Piedmont Bank alone. The woman behind the counter, nervous, not incompetent, just tense. I slid the key across the marble. I'm here to access 144. She hesitated, looked at her screen, then nodded. One moment. She disappeared. A long beat. Too long. When she returned, her face was blank. A representative will meet you downstairs. Why? It's protocol. It wasn't. I knew that. Every Sinclair knows vault access doesn't come with escorts. Downstairs, the walls narrowed. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead like static. We reached the final door. A man waited. Not Pritchard. Not a banker. He wore a dark gray jacket. No name badge. "Ms. Sinclair," he said, "we need to talk about your access." "Who are you?" "Internal compliance. We've had a security flag." The vault door behind him hissed open, but he didn't move. Why was I flagged? Unusual file retrieval. Multiple inquiries. Encryption access from unregistered devices. I didn't touch anything. "No," he said calmly, "but someone did, using your name." I left empty-handed. No access. No documents. Someone had already been there. Used my key. Forged my signature. And buried whatever secrets had been hidden beneath my floor. Back home, the lights were already on. I hadn't left them that way. The kitchen faucet was dripping. One drop, then another. I stepped in slowly. Drawer open. Nothing taken. Just rearranged. As if someone wanted me to know they'd been there. My phone buzzed. One message. From Liam. "We need to talk. Before you make things worse." I didn't reply. I drove. Midnight. I parked outside his condo. Lights on upstairs. I sat in the dark. Watching. Waiting. Then he appeared, silhouetted in the window. On a call. His voice muffled by glass, but one phrase rang clear. "We can't afford for her to know everything yet." I leaned back in my seat. Breath shallow. Heart pounding. Something inside me snapped. He wasn't just protecting them. He was working with them. She tore the camera off and whispered, "You want a show? Watch what I do next." Sunday morning. The air tasted like metal. Rain slicked the streets in oily streaks of gray and gold. I hadn't slept. I'd been replaying Liam's words all night. We can't afford for her to know everything yet. I texted Jenna. She replied instantly. "Meet me at Cornerstone Cafe, 9 a.m., come alone." I drove with both hands clenched on the wheel. The city passed in a blur. I didn't feel cold until I stepped inside and the door chimed behind me. Jenna was already seated. "Hood up. Coffee untouched." She slid a manila envelope across the table. I pulled it from public financials. "You're not just off the trust, Ellie. The Sinclair allocations were funneled into a proxy holding company last quarter. Guess who signed off?" I didn't move. "Tell me." "Liam." The room went quieter. "He's the listed proxy on Sinclair Holdings West. The name shows up on a dozen shell transfers. Same pattern. Same trail." I swallowed. Hard. Jenna leaned in. "This isn't just favoritism anymore. This is an extraction." Cut to my house. Silent. Too silent. I locked the door. Pulled the curtains. Charlotte and Owen were with my neighbor for a movie play date. Thank God. I opened the envelope. There it was. Transfer documents. Proxy agreements. IRS filings. The language was cold. Precise. And Liam's signature, clear as day. Below it, Margaret's initials. And a phrase stamped at the bottom of one. Subject to reclassification. Non-strategic dependence. The next scene moved fast. Me and Jenna in her car, parked outside Sinclair Legal Tower. Our breath fogged the windshield. "This is where they keep physical backups," she said. "If there's anything left, it'll be there. They digitize monthly. If we wait, it's gone." "I'll go in," I said. "No," she snapped. "They know your face. I'll distract. You move when I signal." "Jenna." She stared. "They erased my niece 5 years ago. You didn't know that, did you?" I didn't. "Let me do this." Inside the tower, Jenna took the front, blonde, blazer, high heels, played the perfect investor. I slipped in the back service elevator. The light inside flickered once. Twice. Basement. Level 3. A corridor stretched like a spine. Filing cabinets. One red box at the end. I moved fast. Gloved. No prints. Inside the red file, letters of disposition. Assets. Payouts. One page glowed under the overhead bulb. Charlotte, Owen. Their names stamped. Scheduled for financial reclassification. January 1st. For weeks away. Behind me, footsteps. Fast. I froze. Held breath. A click. The camera overhead shifted toward me. I grabbed the page, slid it under my shirt, and backed out. The hallway was longer now. Or I was slower. My shoulder hit the elevator button. Doors opened. Jenna inside. Let's go. Did you distract them? She handed me a flash drive. With this. Back at my house. The page on the table. I read the fine print aloud. In absence of qualifying traits, minors may be removed from inheritance profiles in accordance with internal legacy restructuring protocols. They're treating my kids like bad PR, I whispered. Jenna exhaled. They've done it before. They'll do it again. I stared at the drive. What's on this? Signatures, dates, video files. One shows Liam in a Sinclair finance meeting, signing under duress. Why would he agree? Because they threatened custody, she said quietly. He signed to keep visitation. My heart stuttered. They offered him protection, Ellie, but he bought it with your children. I stood up. Everything spun. The room blurred into shapes and shadows. Cut to black. Cut to ringing phone. Blocked number. I answered. A voice modulated. Male. Come. You're close. Stop now, or you'll lose them for good. He hung up. I checked my front door. Still locked. Then the back. The latch was undone. Wide open. My stomach turned. Outside in the mud, footprints. Size 10. Heavy. Boots. They led to the side gate and disappeared. I ran back inside. Charlotte's iPad was on the table. Still open. A new message blinked across the top. Midnight. If you want the real list, come alone. Location. West Terminal Storage. Unit 417. I looked up at Jenna. Her face was pale. You can't go alone. I looked down at the paper in my hand, at my kids' names stamped like defects on a factory recall. I don't have a choice. I want you to think real carefully about what you're about to do. West Terminal Storage sat like a forgotten tooth at the edge of the industrial district. No signs, no cameras, just chain-link fences and rusted doors, breathing fog into the December air. I parked under a busted lamp. 11:58 p.m. Unit 417. The metal latch was already unhooked. My breath clouded in the dark. I pushed the door open. Inside, dust, mildew, the faint hum of an old dehumidifier. One bulb dangled from the ceiling, flickering like it hadn't made up its mind about staying alive. In the center, an old banker's box, unmarked. I stepped closer. The floor creaked behind me. I froze. Nothing. The box felt heavier than it should have. I opened the lid. Papers. Dozens. Color-coded tabs. Family tree diagrams. Legal docs. Custody filings. And a flash drive taped to the bottom. I pocketed it. Then a voice behind me. Low. Male. Take it. But you didn't get it here. I spun. But the figure was already gone. Door swinging open. No face. No footsteps. Only silence. Cut to Jenna's apartment. 2:07 a.m. Curtains drawn. Lights off. The only sound was her ancient space heater ticking like a time bomb. She loaded the drive. Screen flashed. Folders unfolded. Hundreds. Each one named after a child. Charlotte. Owen. But also Elijah Rowe. Melody Tran. James Rutledge. This isn't just your family, Jenna whispered. This is a pattern. Each file had the same tags. Disposition type, non-strategic. Value impact, negative. Termination, scheduled. They're building generational wealth by filtering children, she said. Only the refined ones make the cut. I stared at the screen. This isn't just legacy. This is curation. And there it was. The master document. Sinclair Family Legacy Alignment Index. Margaret's name stamped across the top. Below, listed as advisory board, Gideon. Liam. My stomach flipped. She'd built it. My mother had built an algorithm for bloodline branding. Next day, early, rain hammered the roof of my car like gunshots as I sat in the parking lot of Gideon's office. I didn't wait. I stormed in. Reception blinked. Ms. Sinclair, he's in a call. I kept walking. Opened the door. Gideon sat behind a wall of glass mid-conversation. He looked up, pale. I need to speak to you, I said. He muted the call. This isn't the place. You're removing my kids from everything. Their name, their blood, and you're signing it. He stood slowly. It's more complicated than that. No, it's not. It's control. It's erasure. A long pause. He walked over, voice low. Mom said your kids. Didn't align. Too emotional. Too loud. Not refined enough for the Sinclair legacy. They're children, Gideon. He didn't blink. So were we. Cut scene. My hands on the wheel. Driving fast. Windshield wipers slicing panic in half. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. AMC. 4th floor. Ask for Nolan. Bring the drive. I swerved into the nearest parking lot. AMC? I called Jenna. That's the Asset Management Council, she said. If they're calling you, someone's panicking. I didn't think. I drove. AMC headquarters loomed like a courthouse redesigned by a machine. Polished glass, sharp corners, no soul. 4th floor. I stepped out of the elevator and straight into a wall of cold air. A man in a gray suit waited. Late 50s. Worn eyes. Calm hands. Nolan Griggs, he said. Internal whistle protocol. You brought it. I nodded. Handed over the flash drive. He plugged it in. Watched. Said nothing. Then, they've been filing these children under a code we haven't seen since '94. It was outlawed. Classification-based asset allocation. He stopped. It's damn near eugenics by trust fund. My pulse slammed. Why now? I asked. Because it scaled, and someone got greedy. He looked at me. Your mother's not just a Sinclair. She's the architect of this thing. She's been using Liam to cover paper trails. I sat down hard. She threatened him. Used his custody agreement. If he didn't cooperate, she'd make sure he never saw his kids again. I stared at the window. Rain smeared the skyline like fingerprints. You have to file mandatory disclosure, I said. You're required. He nodded. But if I do, they'll know it came from me. You've got 12 hours before this burns. Burns. He leaned in. They'll purge everything once they suspect internal breach. All names. All files. Yours included. I left the building. Rain turned to sleet. I didn't go home. I drove straight to the Sinclair estate. Front gate still had the lion emblem. Still gleamed. Still lied. Margaret answered the door herself. Silk robe. Glass of Pinot in hand. I wondered when you'd show, she said. I want answers. You already have them. You built a system that erases children, Mom. She sipped her wine. No, darling. I built a system that protects legacy. I laughed. Cold. Sharp. That's what monsters always say. It was for protection. She stepped forward. If you push this, Eleanor, I promise you, you'll regret it more than I will. I looked her dead in the eye. You erased my name once, but this time I'm still standing. Her smile cracked. You don't even know who you're fighting. But I did now, because in the next room, through the slightly open door, I saw Charlotte's school photo, pinned on a corkboard, circled in red ink. The old bar in Emeryville tasted like burnt cork and regret. Rain hammered the rusted fire escape as I pulled the hood of my jacket down. Jenna was already inside, perched in a corner booth like a ghost waiting for justice. Her eyes lifted when I sat. No smile, Griggs is late, she said. He won't come here after dark. I nodded. Too many eyes in too many places. Always watching. Always waiting for a slip. The waiter set down 2 black coffees. Steam curled like smoke from a gun barrel. You ready? Jenna asked. I pulled the flash drive from my pocket, the one that tied my mother's name to every merciless classification. They're filtering lives, I said, voice low, like blood through a sieve. Jenna exhaled hard. They are. And we just found the master key. I set the drive on the table. The polished surface reflected shards of lamplit wood and shadows that didn't belong to either of us. A child's worth isn't measured in love or laughter, I muttered, only in how useful they are. I remembered something my father once said about legacy, not prosperity, not progress, but survival. Funny how those words aged like poison. Suddenly my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Check your inbox. Now. My breath hitched. I opened the email. Attachment, a video thumbnail. Timestamp, last night, 9:47 p.m. The name on the file, Liam Winters, confidential signature session. I stared. Jenna's breath caught. Open it, she whispered. I tapped play. Static first, then the image sharpened. A boardroom. Expensive chairs. Gideon at the head. Margaret beside him. Glass of red wine glowing like blood in low light. And Liam, at the table, signing documents. But that wasn't the shock. The shock was how terrified he looked. His hands shook. His eyes darted to the door every few seconds, like someone was watching him, waiting for him to slip. One folder after another. One click after another. Then silence. Cut to black. My fingers trembled. Why would someone send this? I asked. Jenna didn't answer. Her face was frozen. We didn't notice the bar's front door open behind us. A man in a trench coat stepped inside. Tall, shadow crisp, no hat. He didn't move toward the bar. He moved toward us. Slow, calculated. Eleanor Sinclair, he said, voice a steel blade. I didn't flinch. Not yet. Who are you? I asked. He didn't answer, just dropped a card on the table. A logo, a monogram I'd never seen. AMC, Asset Management Council. I'm here on behalf of the council, he said. You have something that belongs to us. I met his eyes. They were too steady, too assured. What do you think you're doing? I asked, but my throat was dry. I'm offering you a choice, he said. Hand over the drive and walk away. Leave the Sinclair entanglement. Live. Live. The word hit like a fist. I looked at Jenna. Her eyes were wide. No, I said. This ends tonight. The man didn't flinch. He reached into his coat. I didn't wait. I grabbed Jenna's wrist. We bolted out the back. Rain hit like shards of glass. We ran. Car doors slammed. Engines started. But we didn't stop. Not until the tanker trucks and industrial shadows swallowed us whole. 2 hours later, I was in my car again. Fogged windows. Cold spine. The streetlights flickered like dying stars. I replayed the video in my head. Liam. Actually afraid. Not defiant. Not composed. Afraid. Why? We both knew his signature was forged under pressure. That much was clear. But his fear meant someone had leverage. Somebody wasn't just watching. They were pulling strings. And if they could make Liam shake, they could make me break. I pulled into a 24-hour diner. Booths. Neon. Coffee cheaper than silence. Jenna slid in across from me. You saw the video, she asked. I nodded. He's scared. She didn't blink. That means whoever's behind this doesn't just want to protect legacy. They want control. Absolute control. I sipped my coffee. Bitter. Necessary. And they're escalating. Outside, the rain finally eased. But the tension didn't. Jenna pulled up a document on her phone. Look, she said. There's a pattern of meetings. Monthly. Coordinated with tax cycles. Trustee audits. custody evaluations, but one name pops up more than any other. She tapped the screen. Carter Wynn. I blinked. Not Sinclair. Wynn. The same name as Liam's colleague. The man Liam met last month before everything started unraveling. The man Liam never told me about. What's he listed as? I whispered. Co-trust administrator. A silent beat. Then, your husband isn't just a proxy, Jenna said slowly. He's part of the architecture. My heart hammered. I could feel it in my bones. He wasn't protecting me. He was protecting them. I stood up, slid out of the booth. Jenna followed. You're going to confront him? I shook my head. I'm going to draw him out. My phone vibrated. Same number as before. New message. Ballroom. Tonight, 8 p.m. Come alone with the drive. No signature. No name. Only the location. I looked at Jenna. Public, she said. Lots of eyes. Perfect. Or a trap. I didn't care. Because this wasn't just about legacy anymore. It was about truth. And tonight, someone was going to pay. A text blinked seconds later. We know where your children sleep. I swallowed hard and started the car. The ballroom glittered like a lie. Crystal chandeliers, black tuxes, silk gowns, the kind of place where truth drowned quietly under champagne and polite applause. I stepped inside at 7:58 p.m., the flash drive heavy in my coat pocket, my pulse ticking louder than the string quartet. Every smile felt rehearsed. Every glance lingered a second too long. I moved through the crowd, slow, deliberate, a lesson I learned too late. When predators watch you, don't run. Let them wonder why you aren't afraid. At the far end of the room, beneath a banner that read Legacy Gala, stood Margaret Sinclair, my mother, perfect posture, perfect pearls, the architect of erasure. Beside her, Gideon, pale, sweating, and just behind them, half-shadowed near the bar, Liam. Our eyes met. He looked away first. Cut scene. My phone vibrated. Now. The lights dimmed. Applause rippled as the host took the stage. Tonight, he announced, we celebrate continuity, preservation, the future. I stepped forward before I could think better of it. The microphone squealed as I took it from his hand. Gasps, whispers. Margaret's head snapped toward me. Excuse me, I said, voice steady, amplified across the room. I'd like to talk about the future too. Security moved, hesitated. Too many witnesses. I pulled the flash drive from my pocket and held it up. This, I continued, is what legacy looks like when no one's supposed to see it. I plugged it into the podium. The screen behind me flickered. Folders appeared. Names. Children. Hundreds of them. A hush fell over the room. I scrolled. Filtered. Classified. Removed, I said, based on how well they fit the vibe. Margaret stepped forward. Eleanor, stop this nonsense. I turned to her. You taught me that silence is how powerful people stay clean. I'm done staying clean. The first video played. A boardroom. My mother's voice. Calm. Precise. Blood is emotional. Legacy must be rational. A murmur spread like fire. Then another clip. Liam. Signing. Hands shaking. I looked at him now. He was crying. I didn't know how else to protect them, he said, breaking. She told me she'd take them from me. From both of us. Margaret's mask cracked. Just a hairline fracture. Enough. Enough, she snapped. This is internal family business. No, I said softly. This is a crime. Cut scene. Doors burst open. Federal agents. IRS. DOJ. AMC compliance officers. Nolan Griggs stepped in last, eyes tired but resolved. Margaret Sinclair, he said, you're under arrest for conspiracy, financial exploitation of minors, and obstruction. The room erupted. Margaret didn't scream. She didn't cry. She looked at me. You've destroyed everything we built. I met her gaze. No, you destroyed it the moment you decided children were assets. They led her away. Gideon sank into a chair. The band stopped playing. Silence. Cut scene. 3 months later. Morning light spilled across my kitchen table. The house smelled like coffee and toast. Ordinary. Beautiful. Charlotte was drawing. Owen was humming off-key. A letter lay open beside my mug. Full custody restored. Trust reinstated. Criminal proceedings ongoing. I folded it slowly. Jenna stood by the window. They're calling it one of the largest inheritance fraud cases in state history. I nodded. Good. Liam had moved out. We spoke only about the kids. Some bridges don't burn, they just collapse. Outside, the world kept moving. Inside, I finally breathed. I thought about something I once believed that family was fate. That blood was destiny. But fate doesn't get to decide who deserves love. And destiny doesn't get to grade children on how well they behave at dinner. I knelt beside Charlotte. You know something? She looked up. What? Being real is fancier than pretending. Always. She smiled. Later, as the sun climbed higher, I realized the truth that ended this war and began something else entirely. Legacy isn't what you preserve. It's what you refuse to pass down. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid of who was watching, because there was nothing left to hide.